I want to welcome everybody to the Beverly Hills Film, TV, and New Media Festival. And thank you for getting up so early on a Saturday. Okay, I would like to introduce Cooper Harris. She was amazing in helping me set up this panel because with all the other things that I had to do, I would have lost my mind if I had to do this also. And she's done a lovely job. So I just want to tell you a little bit about her. She's an actress and award-winning producer. She's beautiful. She's best known in the digital world for producing Daily Motions, #1 original comedy, Squatters. She stars in Amy Allison Fans, and it's in this festival, and I saw it, and it's really awesome, so I just wanted to share that with you. The screening's at 4 o'clock tomorrow. So without further ado, where are you? Cooper Harris?
Hey, well, thanks for coming out. This is really fun and exciting for me. We are at the Beverly Hills Film, TV, and New Media Festival. And while it is a mouthful, it's also really pertinent to the way that filmmaking is going today because digital is a large component of what we're all encountering as filmmakers. And as a filmmaker myself, I hope to ask some good questions which will help us all get better perspective when we are making our content and sharing our stories. I have an amazing panel up here, and they're from a wide variety of entertainment. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I'm losing my voice.
Hello, my name is Shane Elliott. That's very loud. My background is in advertising, also filmmaking, directing, writing, all kinds of goes hands in hand. So that's where I come from.
Hi, I'm Brittani Taylor, and I make silly videos on YouTube, and people watch them. So I'm the 10th most subscribed woman on YouTube. So.
I'm Jeremy Azevedo, and I'm the Director of Entertainment Programming at Machinima, which is the #1 entertainment network on YouTube.
I'm Kristin Jones, and I'm the Chief Creative Officer of Vuguru, which is a digital studio focusing on scripted projects.
Hey everybody, I'm Todd. Hello. I'm the Head of Creative Development and a producer at HT Films, and we make stuff and distribute it through all sorts of different websites, Hulu, IGN, Machinima, the Jace show over there, and that's kind of what we've been doing. We've been in the online space now for a couple of years, and we've actually been able to successfully make shows from our own head, put them out there in the world, and make some money on it. And hopefully, if that's what you're interested in doing, I'll be able to share some information with you about how to do that.
Thank you guys. They're amazing. Can we clap? So I think we're all, as filmmakers, I'm assuming, how many people out there makes film in some capacity? Content, YouTube, everybody almost. Awesome. Okay, so I think we're all aware that digital is new, and it's really affecting kind of how films are made, obviously, and also television, and kind of all the platforms are very quickly, alarmingly quickly blending together. And I just wanted to really quickly go down the panel and say, Todd, I know you started out in television at Warner Brothers, and digital quickly and dramatically changed your path and how you make content. Can you talk about that really quickly?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah, we were actually on the lot for about 5 years. We had offices there, and the TV show that we made, it was V on ABC, ran for a couple of seasons. And we recently moved into our own building off the lot. We got our own space because we recognized that after going through the television development process, because we were new at this, we're not like TV pros, we've only been doing it for a few years. And that's a very, very difficult thing for us to integrate into. If you've been doing it for like 30 years or 40 years, it's easy. Now, while we were trying to develop V, we started messing around with the online stuff, specifically with the Jace show. And we were having more fun doing that. No one was telling us what to do. The pressure was less. We could do creatively anything. And so while we were developing and YV was running, we just kept getting more and more into the online space until the point where we're like, we should just be over here because it's more fun. And I know a lot of people that do online shows may want to do those shows because they're trying to get to television. And we're of the psychology where it's like, no, we want to stay here in the online space because this is awesome and this is fun and this is where the future is. So you may want to just ask yourselves, when you're trying to make your show and you're trying to make your content, what are you trying to do? Do you just want people to see it and have fun? Are you trying to get to television? Because those come from very, very different psychological bases. And the TV carrot that you may be chasing, if that is what you're doing, you may want to consider the internet. Staying there, because that's really where the audience is going, in our opinion, and that's really where we think the future is, and that's where we've been having the most fun. So that's kind of why most of our programming is designed toward simply catering to online. Now, don't get me wrong, there's money in TV. If a TV offer falls on us or if something comes along, we will take that, certainly. There's gold within their hills. But the amount of work and energy it takes to actually make a TV show is just, it's very difficult. And that energy, if you're just starting out, if you apply it to a web series, and just focus on that and try to dominate that space, position yourself there, then in years, you guys might find yourself in a very good position, as opposed to just trying to get into that one system, which institutionally is very difficult to get into.
Yeah. Kristin, kind of following up on that, I know you started out more traditional media. What was it that what did you see happening that brought you to Vuguru then? What was that transition?
Well, pretty blatantly, I worked in Miramax. I had been in London working in independent film with Buena Vista, which is the international arm of Disney, for 7 or 8 years, and then that took me to New York, where I was the New York head at Miramax. And quite frankly, what happened was Disney decided to sell the company, and actually prior to that, for 2 years, I watched virtually every indie major, so to speak, Paramount Vantage, Picture House, Warner Independent. The list goes on of these kind of companies blow up or certainly shut their doors, and I realized what was happening was the cable, in essence, had kind of replaced the higher end or the more expensive end of independent film, and that really the next bastion of independent film was going to be digital and was going to be things based on the internet, or certainly that were kind of coming out of that world. And so I really thought I want to get on now for
I love it. Yeah. Well, and going on that, Machinima was definitely one of those companies that grew out of the digital space. And I think Brittany as well. I mean, you were a YouTube personality. I don't really think that existed. 10 years ago, we wouldn't know you. So maybe Jeremy and then Brittany, you can talk about what that changed.
Well, to my friends here, I think that we've all kind of experienced the shift in our own ways. For me, when I was in film school, I was there right in the moment where everything was shifting over to video, and some of my peers were spending thousands of dollars on their films, and then $45 per entry into film festivals, and then maximum 200 people might see it, whereas I was putting my stuff on all these different online platforms and getting tens of thousands of views, and I thought to myself, well, why am I even going to bother with this? I could do whatever I want. I was making really weird stuff, and I didn't have to worry about whether or not it was reasonable at all. So at Machinima, we're really in the trenches when it comes to that sort of thing. We work with a lot of young directors, and we basically tell them, nobody is going to stop you from doing what you want to do. We're now in a moment where you can make any kind of thing that you want, and if you put enough effort into it, it's really easy to get to the point where, well, not easy, but it's possible to get to the point where you're making a living off of it. It's almost like the film industry has gone blue collar in some ways. There has always been a barrier of entry, and I think we've all experienced it when you're trying to get into film and television. The budgets are so high that the executives are really reluctant to take risks, but risky content is what the audience wants to see right now because that's what they're getting on YouTube. So now we have an opportunity to really create a lot of that kind of content that really kind of raises the bar in terms of creativity, but at a smaller budget. And you might say, well, I really want to be on TV, but that's the kind of, you might find yourself in a situation where you spend 2 years waiting to get something going, and then it ends up on a shelf and no one sees it. And maybe there's a huge payday. Maybe there's $1 million paycheck at the end of it. But maybe on YouTube, you don't make quite as much money, but you're always working. You're always developing your craft, and you get to the point where you're making tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. You just have to work for it. So that's what I mean when I say it's a little bit more blue collar. You have to work harder, but the work is there. It's available. Anyone can have it.
Does it reach?
Switch.
I started doing YouTube because I was auditioning, and I kept going out for parts for like The Girl Next Door and whatever, and I was like, I can be really weird. I can play like a creepy nerd, like put no makeup on me. I wanted to not be put in a box, but there's like 250,000 actors in Los Angeles. And so I was like, how am I going to differentiate myself being another brunette female in this industry? So I said I was going to quit auditioning and start doing YouTube, and my friends thought I was crazy. Because like, you're not going to showcase anymore? You're not going to audition? I'm like, no, I see a future here, and I'm just going to put all my eggs in one basket and see where it goes. So I think the biggest thing that if you're trying to do it yourself is know that you can do it yourself. Like I kept thinking and was trained in my brain that I need to take a class, like learn how to film, learn how to edit. Like someone needs to teach me that when it's stuff that if you have a hunger for it, you can very much teach yourself. So yeah, I started writing and filming, and like I think the key for YouTube is just consistency and knowing that like, you know, it's a building, like it's a community, and it's like you have to build every single week and make sure that you're consistent, because that's how you build an audience, because they get to know you as a person as well and as an artist. So it's kind of weird. It's not like acting where you're just playing a role. Like YouTube is very much like they want to know who you are, plus see you do something silly or do something creative.
So Shane, you were creative director of the world's largest digital ad company?
RazorFish, yeah.
Yeah, that's intense. However, that wouldn't really have been around, 10, 15 years ago, because digital ads, what would they have been, right? So what drew your attention to that area, and then how did that happen?
Well, I come from a background of filmmaking. Took classes, film school, and that sort of thing. And then I was an actor and that sort of thing too. I sort of fell into the whole ad agency place. I came from a background of computer science as well in college, so I had all kinds of different angles. And when I got to RazorFish, I started doing animations and that sort of thing, and I realized right away that what they were doing with their video storytelling was sort of boring and crap. So I'm pretty vocal when it comes to criticizing something that I don't like, and I made it pretty clear that what they were doing was just not taking any risks. They were anticipating that the client was going to only like stuff that was safe and mainstream, so they went in with those ideas already knowing that the client was going to want that. And then what I tried to push was that we can actually take some risks here, because the budget, like these guys were saying, the budget to shoot something digitally it's tiny. So you can actually take a huge risk, go out and shoot an entire project concept, take it to somebody and show them what you have, and you've done it for maybe $500 if you're creative. One example, which was a big inspiration for me, where storytelling and advertising became really powerful, was the Old Spice campaign. You guys have all seen this, I'm sure. This guy on the horse on TV, and it started with the guy on the horse, and it's a funny commercial. But where it really got inventive was when they took it online, and I don't know how many of you guys have seen this or know about this, but what they did is they took the same actor, put him in a studio-like space, took the writers and all the video equipment and put it in the same space, and basically watched the social networks, Facebook, Twitter, and looked for people mentioning Old Spice. Then they responded with a video that they shot in real time and wrote and shot and produced and then put it out on YouTube as a response to somebody's tweet that they had just put out there. So now you have this real live interaction with your audience. From a brand standpoint, it's phenomenal. But it's also a really interesting story, because you have this guy and he's actually talking to you. So, I mean, me personally, and I don't usually get swept away by ads because I know how they're made and manipulated. This felt really truthful and honest to me, and it drew me in, which I think is something you could never have done if you were shooting commercials on film.
That's really cool. Okay, so everybody's been saying, it gives the digital arena gives us more freedom and space, and we should take these risks that now we can afford to do. So is that all you need to see to make it provocative and interesting? Say Machinima, you see something really risky, or you're going to be like, yeah, I need that on my channel? What is it? Awesome. Did everybody hear that? Yeah. So what specifically draws you to a piece of content? Digital or a website thing, perhaps even that's wanting to head towards television? Kristin, do you want to start?
Sure. For me, it starts with the story. I mean, it's always whatever. That's one thing that just has been a constant in my entire career has been whatever the best story, the most compelling story. Now, obviously, oftentimes the most compelling stories, as you said, are different and they're unique. They're not derivative and, or rarely are they derivative. So that really is what, and it's also somebody who I think has a unique voice that's going to tell that story in a unique way.
Okay, so the question is, what kind of content are we looking for?
Essentially, yes.
I don't presume to know what kind of content I'm looking for. The way I look at it is I try to tell myself it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what the audience thinks. So I pay a lot of attention to how the audience responds with their views, with their likes. I read all the comments on a lot of the stuff, and as a result, we have at any given time maybe 15 to 20 shows just on our channel alone that are doing millions of views, sometimes a couple million views a week. In our network, we represent all these other channels that do a lot of different things. So it's not just story-driven stuff. There is that, but there's also personality-driven stuff, which, when I'm looking at a personality on YouTube, I want to see somebody that's really genuine and somebody that's really interactive, because that's how you really take advantage of the space.
Is there any recent example that really struck your fancy or really caught your eye that you can think of in either category?
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of stuff that really impresses me every day, and that's one of the things that I really love about my job, is that I just watch really insane things all the time. But there's a group called Corridor Digital that they're sort of like the Michael Bay of YouTube, and they just do these insane special effects things, like all live action. It's two guys, they got a couple buddies that help them out, but the stuff they do is just incredible. There's not a lot of story to it, but there doesn't always need to be. We have the story stuff with Receiver. I don't know how many of you guys saw Receiver. We have like this sci-fi kind of like X-Files meets Twin Peaks sort of thing going on, where we do go into like a deep kind of story that has a broader appeal. And then we have cartoons like Sanity Not Included or gameplay stuff, which is a whole category that a lot of people don't talk about, but it's actually probably even bigger than the vlogger category. There are more people that do it. It's really easy to do. It's really empowering for the individuals, and their communities are strong. So I would say, if I'm looking for something in particular, I just want to see somebody that's really passionate and that really takes a strong interest in their community, because that's the only way that you can become successful in it.
What was the question?
So, when you're looking at all this content that's out there, we're all trying to make risky, exciting stuff that tells a story. What sticks out for you? And also, maybe to add to that, what do you think that a lot of young aspiring filmmakers are missing?
YouPorn would be my answer. YouPorn has all those things. It's that story, but it's weird. It's really weird. No, I'm kidding. I just want to ask you guys, how many people here are just new at the internet, web thing, Twitter thing, Facebook, building videos? Okay, Twitter. And how many of you have episodes that are actually online right now or in production and stuff? Okay.
How many of you have business cards to give me after this?
Yeah, this is how you get you exposure. Okay. To me, to answer that question seriously, there's a couple different things. If you can make stuff that looks like TV, feels like TV, but doesn't cost TV, you will be having superpowers in the internet space, because people like Vuguru or people like Hulu will love you if you can actually make content that does that. For us at HD Films, we are getting more into scripted stuff where we actually have actors and cameras and lighting. But a lot of our stuff that we've been doing in the past is, I would say, informational and personality-based. One example, and it's a show that's syndicated on Machinima, is the Jace Hall show. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm trying to illustrate some of the angles you may take when you're trying to develop content for online. So if you can make stuff that looks like TV, feels like TV, but doesn't cost TV, that's great. You can find people to buy that. If you're just trying to get your foot in the door, the first show we ever did was the Jace Hall show, and it is kind of a video game lifestyle show. It addresses video game sensibilities, but it deals more with the personality of the video game developers and the kind of the culture that surrounds that. And that was our angle. We took that show because when we look at the video game space, there was no one making a show that satisfied those things. All the video game shows at the time were, this product does this product does that product does that. But no one was talking about the people that make the games. And so we felt that there was an audience for that. So we developed a show that kind of took that to the nth degree. It's more like Curb Your Enthusiasm, but at the core it's about video games. And that show became very popular because there's nothing like that, and it could be exploited online. And we launched it on IGN, and then it gets syndicated to Machinima and Hulu, and there's an audience for that. So in my position at HT Films, I meet folks that come in with ideas and they pitch them to me. And I'll tell you a quick little story because it might resonate with you. I had a couple of friends of mine come in and they wanted to do a show for Comedy Central, and it was a travel show. They wanted to go around and look at little hidden places that are kind of off the beaten path. And they wanted to do more skits around it because they wanted to showcase their skills, their comedic timing, and their writing of comedy. And I said, well, that's going to be a tough sell because no one knows who you are, and it's a TV show. I don't think that's going to work. Who else do you guys know that might want something like that? As I went through who they knew, they actually knew somebody at a major airline that was in charge of all their video production on all their airplanes. That's like 20,000 people a day, closed audience. You know the little screens on the TVs, right? I said, why don't you pitch them that show, make it a serious 5-minute travel show, like really go in there, give information to the audience, show them these things, and then put 10 or 20% of your personality into it. You could sell that. And then over time, as you build up your body of work, you can then maybe move that into other distribution channels. And then you can make it more like 50% of your personality, 50% information. But you got to give that information. That's the value that you're bringing to the audience. That's why they want to watch you. They don't know who you are, so they're not tuning in to see you. We go to movies for that. We go to movies to see a celebrity or something, right? So when you're thinking about your shows, consider if you can find a space out there that you're uniquely qualified to have a voice about. And if you can then bring your personality to that and develop something around that, you may find that there's an audience for it. And then you can just build upon that. I hope that made some sort of sense. That makes sense, anybody?
Yeah.
Did I put you to sleep? I can talk about unicorn again.
No, I think that makes complete sense. And I mean, Brittani, I feel like is the perfect example of someone doing that, forming your own show around what you do the best, really being specific and taking risks. I mean, do you feel like that's the case?
Yeah, I think I should have the mic before I talk. I think what's really interesting about YouTube is if you look at people that are the most subscribed people, everyone is so unique and so different at what they do. And that's why when people come and they're starting a new show on YouTube, I'm always like, what are you good at? Are you good at singing? Then do covers, do music video parodies, figure out something that you're already strong at and figure out how you can turn it into something. Because the more unique you are, the more different you are, the more people are going to watch you. They don't want to see another Kev Jumba or another, Nega Higa. They want to see you in a different space. So I think it's just, again, like he was saying, anything different, something that hasn't been out there, you can find an audience for it.
And subsequently, when you do that successfully, I feel like it opens up then a greater variety of areas that you can then branch off, but really to focus on what you specifically are the best at.
Yeah, I could just attest to that. The Jace Hall show, I keep mentioning this because that was our first show, but the Jace Hall show was literally me and my buddy Jace Hall with a video camera running around talking to celebrities and video game developers about games. And that was in 2007. That was our first show. Right now we have 90 episodes of that. We have that dovetailed and opened us up to meeting all the other distribution partners like Machinima and Hulu and Metacafe for our international audience. That's how we met all the players, by just kind of putting our foot in that door. And out of that, we then started developing other shows, computer animated series for Warner Brothers, because all of a sudden it's like, hey, we should go to these guys. We also have about 200 shows on Hulu of the morning after. But it all came from that one show. And so it does open up all these other possibilities when you start actually getting out there and putting your content out with your voice on it. Makes sense?
Excellent. And I just to attest to that, Brittani is in the feature that I start that's screening tomorrow. So it's really fun because we found her because she is so good at what she does. She plays herself in the film, which is a really unique crossover and yet another path that was opened up because you took a risk and did well what you do.
Oh, yeah, and just to piggyback on kind of what everybody's saying here is, I think what I look for as a viewer, and anytime I'm looking for a project to get involved in, it's always, it goes back to this, and I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, especially as a writer, but write what you know and be honest. So there's really no way to go out and find what you think people are looking for and fake your way into that spot. It just doesn't ever feel right, and somehow those projects don't really take off. There was this one thing that I did about 7 years ago, is I created a sketch comedy show called Fries on the Side. And we had no idea where it was going to go. We just did it because we were all looking for something fun to do. And if we had done it for any other reason, it would have fallen on its ass. But the fact that we went out there and we just started going. I mean, it ran for 7 years. We had celebrities join in, and nobody got paid. That's amazing. 7 years, an entire crew, cast, celebrities, no pay. I mean, you can't create that. You couldn't set out to do that if you didn't just love what you were about to do. So I think that's what these guys have been saying, is that if your voice is unique because it's your voice. So if you just go and do what you care about, it's gonna resonate with somebody for that reason.
Absolutely, for sure. So I think it definitely opens up like avenues for us today, and eventually, hopefully, we will get paid. It's really good. So what do you guys see, as kind of digital TV, film is all kind of colliding, kind of merging into this just entity of media itself. What do you see, what's really exciting for you that you've heard of coming up, or that you intend to make use of, maybe Brittani, or just an avenue that maybe you think is just something you're going to ride?
I think what's really cool about doing YouTube is that I've been able to work with a lot of companies. So what's neat is that I'm not going to an audition and meeting with a casting director. I'm getting hired directly with the ad agency and the people above them. So it's interesting that I'm going to Row Pictures and sitting down with the head of Row Pictures to talk about his movie, or LiongsGate, or the Weinstein Company, or Ford. So it's so cool that I'm creating all these brand relationships that can get me work and help, pay my bills just by making videos online. So I think that's what's exciting for me, is that I get to work with these companies and I get a budget to make cool stuff. So I don't have this $500 like I have, depending on the video, I can make something even cooler, and then it keeps your audience excited.
Well, actually, Machinima is involved with a number of things that kind of cross over between the more mainstream and the sort of indie stuff that we do, like Receiver, like Mortal Kombat Legacy, which we worked with Warner Brothers for. A lot of what we do on YouTube, just in general, is people when they do something like the Jace Paul show or something that gets a lot of attention, everyone starts looking at you and saying, well, what else could we do with you? I really like this stuff. It's really genuine. Where's it going to go next? And sometimes there are opportunities to do these big budgeted kind of things. We could Bite Me also. Some of these more budgeted projects. Kevin Tantrum, who did Mortal Kombat Legacy, started with a short on YouTube. And then he got a deal to do a whole series based on Mortal Kombat, and now he's doing a motion picture. So it's a lot easier to get noticed if you're building the community, and that's why we stress over and over again that it's not enough to just do something because you think that it's what people are into. In fact, what you said actually is a perfect example of what not to do. For example, if you are a very attractive female and you do not play video games, but you think the line is shorter to get into a video game position, do not do that. Everyone will be able to tell that you're faking it fun. That sort of thing. Don't do what you think that you should do. Do what you want to do. Be true to yourself. If you're really into animation, learn Flash, do animation. If you want to do puppets, do puppets. If you want to do stop motion, that's fine. You just got to do what's in you, right?
If you're going to fake it, then say you're faking it. That might play.
And just
I don't know.
Make a joke out of it. opportunities that come for brand deals, and some of the networks are starting to take notice because they're, in some cases, becoming desperate because they don't know where to look for stuff, right? If you're an animation company and your job is on the line, are you going to go with somebody you don't know or Seth MacFarlane, you know? And there can only be so many Seth MacFarlane shows, right? Right. There doesn't seem to be a limit on it. There must be somewhere. And then where are they going to look? They're going to look at a guy that's on YouTube that has a couple million subs that he got by making friends with other people on YouTube, doing collaborations, being true to himself, doing his thing. And those deals will come. The TV, the movies, if that's what you want to do, there is a path to success there. But it's not even really necessary at this point, right?
Yeah. It's not like you're investing thousands of dollars to get your idea out, right? I mean,
no.
You just go and do it.
Well, it depends on what it is.
Depends.
You are investing thousands of dollars.
Depends on your idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kristin, any new trends that you think are super exciting or any new?
Well, I mean, I think we're coming at it from a bit different place than just about everybody else on this panel.
Yeah.
And we're focused on scripted content. This year we will have made 8 feature-length projects. We've had a big hit with Hulu, with Booth at the End, which has had a 75% view-through rate this summer. We have a project out right now with Snag Films called Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which is a very politicized project that Mary Herron did and her husband about the Don't Ask, Don't Tell movement, which obviously was repealed a month or so ago. And we have a couple things with AOL that we're launching in the first quarter of next year that are feature length, but also kind of a hybrid television type project with big showrunner creators from television. So, I mean, we're definitely coming in for a different standpoint, but obviously we will have done 8 feature length projects this year, and then we've got 10 more next year that we're planning to do. So, it's a lot. Yeah.
Oh, just to go back to expand upon this question, what trends are coming? Machinima was very successful in Mortal Kombat Legacy. And there's also another web series that's out right now based on a video game, Dragon Age Redemption. And if any of you play video games, there's a lot of video game IP out there, and some of the video game companies are starting to realize that between development cycles on a video game, which can take up to like 5 or 6, 10 years, it might benefit them to keep their IP in the public eye by turning it over to a web series producer. So you're starting to see some of the video game companies warm up to the idea of taking video game content, video game properties, and turning them over to people like Felicia Day, or to Machinima, or to us, I'd like to add, to develop series based on those particular games to keep it in the public mind. So if any of you out there have connections or aspirations to make a short or a series based on a video game, that might be something to consider because you are starting to see that water thaw a little bit. And it makes sense from the video game company's point of view because it's very inexpensive. The way they fund it is from their marketing dollars. They just basically, instead of spending a $500,000 check on a commercial, they'll spend $500,000 on a web series. And then that will actually keep in the public's mind for months as opposed to running a 30-second spot, which is a 2-week cycle. So that would be a trend that might be coming out that you guys might be able to capitalize on out there if you're savvy and witty.
Todd, look forward to 100 new video games.
Part of the reason why that works is because if you've watched a show based on a video game, you haven't experienced the video game. So it's not the same as working with Universal Music Group. If you've heard the song, you've heard the song, and you've already experienced the product. The video game company wants you to buy the game, and then they want you to keep playing the game so that they can sell DLC, which is downloadable content that will come out every few weeks after the game. So not to encourage everybody to put all their eggs in the video game basket, but it is true that when trying to get attention, that's often a really good way to do so.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. We're going to wrap up this panel. I hope you all got something from that. Take risks, focus on what you're good on, and go find a video game. And be honest. At this point, I want to announce that this evening at 8 p.m., Donna Spangler, the festival director, is hosting a beautiful cocktail hour at her home. It's 98. I'm going to give the address. If anyone wants to go, feel free to write this down. Otherwise, come find us later and we'll tell you. It's 9877 Carly Avenue. And that's right up here on Wilshire. So we'll see you there. We have some very lovely fine wines donated by Powell. So you can enjoy this. And I have a question.
Are we able to have time questions? or do you have to know?
Well, what we're gonna do is switch out. Sure, ask the question.
Just a brief quick, as a new producer to the field, you guys did not have a panel like you 10 years ago to address. You had to start your own companies and to get into this field. If you were starting out with all the knowledge that you have now, like some of us here, what would be your first step? Would it be to get in there and start your own thing? Or would it be to approach people like yourselves? Like, let's say I have 3 really well-developed ideas. I can either go and start my own thing and kind of hack and slash, or I could bring it to somebody more established like you, and cut my teeth that way. What would you do in that position?
I'm going to be really quick. I would say, and I'm not trying to skip the question, but both. Because you can do your own thing, and some places are going to be more amenable to seeing something that's on spec, it's built, they can go, oh, I get that. Because they have no vision of their own. To be honest, there are a lot of producers that just are kind of retarded. And so they will literally need to see the thing in full form to even grasp part of it. So that's going to appeal to them. But then these guys have vision. They're going to be able to look at a script or a concept or a pitch and go, oh yeah, I get that. So I would say both. I don't see how you can go wrong. It's not like a,
Even when working with somebody like Machinima, we would still say both. And part of the thing that we do is we work with other directors and producers on YouTube. We have about 1,700 people in our network. And so oftentimes what we'll do is we'll develop something with you that kind of lives on our channel and lives on your channel. We help you develop your product and help you create a business for yourself that is self-sufficient, because we want to empower the person to do their own thing. And then it just becomes more of it becomes more in support of each other, right? It doesn't help me if I take your idea and go profit from it if you're not also profiting from it, because then what's your incentive to continue, right? So definitely both. It's good to work with other people that have knowledge and experience, but you might have a unique perspective that nobody else has, and there's literally nobody stopping you from starting your own, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Just go where the audience already is. The audience is on YouTube, the audience is on Facebook, the audience is on Twitter, they're on mobile, Just be on those platforms, talk to people that have some experience, and I think, you have a really good shot at it if your idea is good.
One more thing. If you can do it yourself, then just do it yourself. If you feel like you need help or assistance, then that's how you define the idea that needs to be presented to someone.
A privilege concept gives you 100% advantage in every single way, shape, and form.
There is some value in doing it yourself because no one can take it away from you. No one can cancel your show. No one can say, like, this sucks. You're like, I know it sucks. I'm going to keep doing it. So I guess the good thing about doing it yourself is it does give you that power to learn and grow. So when people start contacting you and you're at that level, you're ready. Because, like, if people contact me before, I'd be like, I don't know how to promote your product. But I think it takes that experience sometimes.
And you also you can't be afraid to fail, because you will probably fail the first, 1 or 2 or 3 times,
Or first year.
Yeah, I know tons of people that have just not had it work out for the longest time, and then all of a sudden it hits, and it hits big. You could even point to FPS Russia, who does 3 million views every time he uploads a video. Before he was just doing gameplay stuff, and it wasn't really anything special. So he just went from 0 to 1,000 overnight. So in doing it, you find your voice and you discover things that work. You can't be too precious about your projects, I don't think.
I would say, just to add on that too, if you came to us with your project, for example, part of the problem that you might encounter, part of the resistance you might encounter is we're all busy and we're developing our own thing. So when you go to somebody that's somewhat established, for them to take their mental bandwidth off the stuff that they own and try to apply it to your thing is very difficult for them to do. It's tough to get through that unless you're somebody like John Landis or Stan Lee or Seth MacFarlane that you bring value to it. So you will want to probably go out and do it on your own. But part of the problem is if you try to go out to other destination sites or production companies, everyone's busy. So it becomes very difficult to do something like that. So I would suggest even more so, work on it on your own, validate yourself. Also, a lot of people just, as we've all encountered, a lot of people just don't care about what we're doing or what you're doing, So you're always going to encounter that. So you just have to fight through that.
Well, that said, we're in the business of working with very high-profile people, and we're also always taking chances. That we just did a project the first time. We've done 3 projects the first time this year. So I think it's a combination. I mean, I would say both, as other people have too. And that even though we're more of an established company, we're not sitting in an ivory tower where we're always looking for new people. So I think I agree that we're all busy, and God forbid somebody might pass on your project. You have to keep going, and you have to keep trying to do it. But don't think that the places that seem bigger or more established would potentially be unapproachable.
I think we have time for one more question.
You guys haven't talked about podcasting yet. I've just launched a podcast called Pod Brother. And what's your take on the whole world of podcasts as it applies to what you're doing? Because, I mean, I'm learning a lot. I've been on the internet for a minute, and I've learned probably 80% of what I thought I knew. I now know I don't know. Listen to you guys. So, as a podcaster and future podcasters, what's your take on that work?
To me, podcast is just a term for delivery style, right? It doesn't change the story. It may have some suggestion for format. You may have, this kind of talking head thing on average, but in general, you're still doing the same thing. You're telling a story in episodic fashion, and that's kind of what podcast is defining. So I don't think that you have to treat it all that different from any other way that you want to tell your story. You could have a TV series that could be called a podcast if you bring it down to 3 minutes, and you could call it that. You could release it release it through iTunes, and it could be just called a podcast. So I think that that's just more of a term for the delivery than it is necessarily some kind of a style or format rule structure that you have to fit into. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
I have a cool. What is that you're holding? Is that like a Geiger counter? Or what?
It's a GoPro 3D rig, so I'm shooting 3D right now.
Well, now I want to tune into your podcast.
There we go.
Any of you have any more thoughts to add, or do you want to move on to the next question?
I don't podcast.
We do, but I mean, from our perspective, it's just another place where a lot of people are. So like our Inside Gaming show is also a podcast, and I think it's just another place that's really great for building communities.
In fact, there was a service before called Rever, and you'd actually upload a video there, and would publish it to, I believe it would mirror to YouTube and iTunes as a podcast. So it's kind of an example of how it is literally the same, and it's just pushing the content out, And I think as convergence continues to happen, you're going to see television, mobile, a computer. These are all just screens. The stories remain the same. You kind of push them out, and now you have all these different avenues. But I don't know that TV is, other than budget and advertising, is going to be all that different as far as story going forward from a podcast.
Very cool. Okay, any more questions? One more? Jake.
When you guys are looking at something, let's say like a web series, and obviously low budget could be zero, what's your range for what you consider low budget? Like on a per episode basis, or if someone's doing a season on a per season basis?
For me, you could spend $0. When I first started, one of my friends put an ad on Craigslist, and he said that he was going to kill his cat if I didn't let him film. But the thing is, he doesn't have a cat, so that was like an ongoing show on YouTube. It was like, I'm going to kill the kitty, and I'm like, don't kill the kitty, blah, blah. So he ended up filming for me, but you can do it with no money. Like, I used to eat the same food every single day from Trader Joe's so I could buy a wig to make a video in like 2 years. I'm not kidding. So yeah, you don't need money to be able to do it. That's the beautiful thing about the internet. Is like you just have to work hard.
I find that if you're doing live action, it costs you at least $400 for costumes. I make weird videos. So.
For the stuff that we're working on right now, and these are 13 episodes that run anywhere between 5 minutes to 10 minutes, up to 22 minutes. The budgets range that we're working within are around $150,000 to up to $1 million for a season.
we're kind of in that, I mean, we're trying to come up with 90 minutes of content per project, and again, it's anywhere from $100,000 to, over $500,000, so the higher end for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on a couple projects with a company called The Makers, and they kind of push these channels and these things to YouTube, and I'm working with a guy named John Huertas who's on Castle. You guys watch that show. What we're looking at for our budgets, which they want to keep low, and it's just lower end of what they were talking about, it's around $3,500 per episode is what they're aiming for. It probably will be between $3,500 and $5,000. I'd say that's mid-range budget to me, because they're actually throwing money at this. If you're doing it yourself, I'd say a low budget is $500 to $1,000, something like that. But these are just, it's subjective. It's all kind of whatever fits. But that gives you some maybe perspective based on what we're doing.
I would be, starting out. Starting out, I would be less concerned with the upfront money and think of it as a deficit financing model, because somebody could give you $10,000 upfront, sure, but they're going to want to recoup that, and they're going to want a piece of what you get on the back end. Or if you're just doing it where you're getting paid on performance, I have directors in my program that are making twice as much money as I do, doing shows that cost nothing to make. And then they're taking that money and putting it back into it. So we're talking about there is a possibility to be making serious cash off of doing your content without having to pour money in on the upfront.
You do need to invest in basic things though. Like you need probably like camera, editing software. There's some startup costs, and then from there, it's literally it's just your creativity.
You pay the crew, you don't pay the actors.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying. Actors are rewarded on camera. Just saying, this is the fact of the way it works.
That's right. We take that much joy out of seeing ourselves on the screen. That's actually all the time we have for this segment, but if we get the lights back on, we're going to bring up actually 4 really exciting people to speak more to the film aspect of what we've been talking about. Let's take a really quick 5-minute break and
Cooper, I'm sorry. Hey, real quick, if anyone wants to email me, if you guys have any questions, because I do want to help. I'm very interested in trying to share information. So just remember Todd at hdfilms.com. I'll be glad that if you have further questions, anything I can do to help, just please let me know. Thanks.